Thank you everyone for joining another Training Tuesday. Today we have guest speaker Derek Coates, and he's going to talk to us about multi-housing, Saffire locks and things like that. But it should be a good presentation, and if you have any questions, leave them in the chat. We'll answer them as we go, and if we can't get to it, we'll definitely get to it at the end of the conversation. So with that, I'll turn it over to you, Derek.
Thank you very much. As he said, I'm Derek Coates. I'm the regional sales manager. I'm actually located in Tennessee, but I cover kind of a straight line over to Colorado. And I think Tony's on here also. He's my counterpart over in Utah, Nevada, Southern California, over that area, kind of the southeast part of the country. But we're with Dormakaba, and we'll talk about multi-housing locks today. Dormakaba, most of y'all know who we are. Some of you may know us under the name Kaba, Safe Lock, Ilco, Best, Precision. Any of those names are us. Little background. We're in the door hardware, entrance systems, electronic access and data, lodging, safe locks, key systems, movable walls, a little bit of everything that has to do with controlling access to a property. We've been around more than 150 years between all our businesses, and we reach anywhere from the financial industry, airports, schools, government, hotels, multifamily, a lot of different branches out there, including the military. Give you a little bit of background on our multi-housing. What we consider multi-housing is anything that is a multi-family residence, whether it be apartments, senior living, student housing, military base, things like that, anywhere where you have multifamily in there. My portion of multifamily is the smart locks, access control for that multifamily place. Give you a little bit of background on our multifamily. We started the multifamily smart lock industry back in '99. You see that old micro key, basically a computer chip that you stuck into the lock to gain access. This is way before RFID cards and things became popular, back more mag stripe and things like that. We were trying to find other ways around the mag stripe industry back then, and that micro key was one of them. In 2005, we came out with the NSYNC series of locks. That is our first real multifamily lock, a lock that was designed more for multifamily, not for hotel. A lot of our stuff did come from the lodging industry, and we adapted it to work in multifamily. But that NSYNC series of lock was our first true multifamily lock. We still use it today, 15 years later, still a very, very popular lock, especially in the student housing industry. We sell tons of those things. It's one of those things, it ain't broke, don't fix it. It's a tried and true lock that's still working hard today. Doesn't have a lot of the modern features, but it's a good solid lock. Sorry, my screen kept getting blocked there. 2008, we came out with a little more robust lock. You may know it under different names, a 79, 790, RT, things like that. It's all the same lock, just different circuit boards in it to work with different systems. Now I'll go into these a little more in a moment. We came out with ResShield software finally, and it was our first true multi-housing software. A lot of the others were adapted from hotel industry. This one was our first true multi-housing software. Had little issues and things along the way with it, but it worked pretty well for us. More recently, after we merged with Dorma and became Dormakaba, we set out to come out with a modern software to run our multi-housing systems that is not based on solely on lodging systems. It is truly for the multifamily, designed for what we need to do the things we need in multifamily. And that's our community software. We'll get into that in a little bit. So I want to first go over the in-sync series of locks. This is what a lot of you may be familiar with. I know Community Controls is on here. I know y'all do a lot of the in-sync series of locks for us. It is, again, a tried and true lock. We have it in a lot of different formats. It was our first deadbolt lock so that we could actually replace just a standard key deadbolt on the door. One of the nice things about it is it works similar to a keyed lock. You have a little black plastic key that you insert into the lock, turn it just like you would a mechanical key. Unlocks the door. To lock it back, you insert the key in the door and turn it the other way. It is an RFID lock. It used a little microchip basically inside the tip, RFID chip, to gain access. And we had audit trails on the lock, things like that. We can set it up as regular unit keying. We can set them up as common area locks. It is a master keyable system.
Freaking idiot.
So there was a lot of capability out of the system, but still a lot of limits. But we did have it in all the different types. We have it as a deadbolt lock, interconnected lock, so that you have single action egress in the interconnected. The passage lever and the deadbolt are tied together. So from inside the unit, you can turn the handle and it retracts the deadbolt. Probably not used as much, but there are a lot of municipalities that require that single action egress. So interconnected lock is an option for that. We also have it in the tubular style or cylindrical, whichever you want to call it. We have it as a mortise lock, and then we have the common area versions of those for your amenity doors, your pool gate, your fitness rooms, things like that. We even have it, the CP version is the panic trim version. Works with a lot of different, most popular panic trims or panic bars out there. Designed to be an easy way to secure those doors. For the CR series, this was our first version of a card reader lock that would control electrified hardware, whether it be an automatic opener, mag lock, a door strike, things like that. It was an all-in-one unit. You've got the face there, and inside the box is the electronics that control that lock. That design worked well for a while, but we realized we needed something a little better. And a couple of years ago, we released the in-sync rack. That's the one you see here. It's a card reader that is designed to mount on the wall, frame, whatever. It is mullion size, so it could mount on the narrow style aluminum storefronts. Then it has a panel that goes inside the property that actually controls the lock, more like your traditional access systems. It still has the hole in the reader, so you would still insert the key into it to unlock the door. This is what we now consider our value series of locks. They're a little bit lower cost than some of our others, but they don't have the functionality that some of our other locks have. Again, these have been around for about 15 years now. Move on to what's a little bit sexier of a lock, modular or sectional trim. This became very popular in the hotels. A lot of our higher class apartments are using these. They're not as prevalent, but you know, your nicer properties that want a little bit nicer look to their place have gone for these. It is our Quantum series of locks. It is only available as a mortise lock. There is no deadbolt version. There is no cylindrical version. It is a mortise lock. It can have a deadbolt within that mortise. Can even be auto deadbolt, but it is a mortise lock. We have a paint trim that looks a little similar, but it is not that sectional trim. It actually has a metal piece that connects the card reader up top to the handle at the bottom. But on the outside, the public view, you have the card reader up top, you have a door handle at the bottom. On the inside of the housing, inside of the door, you actually do have a full height housing that contains all the electronics, the battery pack, and the inside handle, and a thumb turn. Thumb turn could be used for regular mortise. It can be used to project the deadbolt and secure the door. Most of the time in the apartments, we're doing auto deadbolt, so that deadbolt's automatically thrown when the door shuts, and that thumb turn is then just a privacy. Privacy can keep staff out while still allowing the resident to come in. That way they're not disturbed at night. And this lock has been around about 10 years now. Works pretty well for us. We're still using them pretty heavily. Again, hotel industry probably uses them more than we do, but we still sell quite a few of these locks. Still a very good lock. It is Bluetooth capable, so if you have a property that is wanting to use their cell phone for their credential, it is capable of doing that through an add-on device to it. The newer version of that lock is what we call the Pixel. It's a recent addition to the Quantum series. All right, can you see the InSync page now?
Yes, I can.
All right. So for those of you who may not have seen it, these are our InSync locks that I was describing. So everybody can get a look at that. What I was just speaking on was the Quantum series of locks. That is the sectional lock, so you can see it on the door there. Card reader at the top, just a handle set at the bottom, so a little bit nicer look to the door. All right, now we have our Pixel lock. The Pixel is the newest version of this lock. Went for a very, very minimalist approach. The outside of the door, all you see is about a $50 size card reader, that little round reader. The bottom, you have a door handle. What's really different about this lock from the Quantum lock is on the inside of the door. All you see on the inside of the door is a door handle and a thumb turn. There's no housing, there's no electronics, any of that on the inside of the door. Those are actually, if you look the picture kind of close, you see that there's the mortise housing for the lock there. And above it, there's another mortise housing that actually holds this tray that you're seeing in the bottom right of the picture. The electronics are actually inside the door. There's a slide out tray that goes inside the door behind the reader there. And that's what holds all the electronics for the lock. A little bit more expensive of a lock, definitely more expensive prep because it's a double 8-inch mortise on the door. We don't see these as much now. I actually have a site in Denver that is doing this lock right now. We're seeing them in the higher scale hotels, but it's really those sites that want a very minimalistic look on the door. They want it really clean, and that's what that provides because everything's in the side of the door. This also has an option for Bluetooth. Through a little antenna that we add there in that circuit board. So the newest version of the Quantum lock. And I'm gonna stop presenting for a second so y'all can see this full screen. The sample of this lock is one heck of a big mount. That's because that double 8-inch mortise there. You've got the 8-inch mortise on the bottom where the latch is, then you've got that slide out tray up top. But on the inside of the door, all you've got is a thumb turn and a handle. So very modern looking lock, but definitely a little bit higher cost. We do have some sites that actually spec that lock and go to put it in, and then if they need to reduce cost later in the job, they can actually go from that pixel down to the regular quantum if they hadn't ordered their doors yet. Let me pull my presentation back up real quick.
I got a question. Can you describe the privacy latch again? Because you mentioned that it would keep staff out. Like, what style of keys will that keep out?
Privacy will keep out any key that is not an emergency key. Emergency key automatically overrides privacy because it is an emergency. Typically, that key is used only by security or somebody like that that needs to get in the door, you know, when it is truly an emergency, or a fire department. I always tell my sites to make an emergency key and put it on the Knox box. If y'all know what that is, the little fire department only box that's on the outside of the property or by the front gate, something like that, where they can still get in. Regular master keys, staff keys, maintenance keys, things like that, do not by default override privacy. The reason being is when you're in your unit, maybe you're in there, you're sleeping, you want to be able to lock the door and know that staff is not going to walk in on you. They need to knock on the door and you need to answer it. By default, another resident key for your unit will override that privacy. So let's say the husband comes home, goes in, throws the privacy behind him because he doesn't want anyone just walking in on him, goes to bed, goes to sleep. His wife could still get in with her other resident key. So that will override privacy so that she can still get in and doesn't get locked out. Does that answer your question there?
It does. Thank you.
Welcome. We'll go ahead and move on to what I consider are more modern and more widely used locks. We've got Nova and then Saffire. Nova lock, if you see on the left there, the Nova RT Plus, that design has been around since 2008. It's what you'll see on most hotels that you come across, hotels, motels. That is a very, very popular lock, first put out, I think, by Ilco. But very solid design. You could take a sledgehammer to it, beat on it. You may break the reader on it. You might break the handle off, but you're not getting through the lock. It's a very, very solid design. One of the other things I like about it is that lever is clutched. So in normal time, when you have not read a valid card, you just walk up to the door, you can walk up and turn that lever. It will not retract the latch. It freely moves because of the clutch system in it. Nice thing about that is it moves out of the way. It doesn't get beat up as much, and you can't take and put a bar on it or something and pry on it and break that loose and try to break the lock, break into the lock, because that clutch mechanism, until it's engaged, it is not going to retract the latch. It is only engaged through a valid card read or a key override. You see the circle there in the handle? That is designed to have a key override. If you want it, you can pop that cover off and there is a keyway under it. Can either be the standard key and lever you see there. I think by default that's a Slate C keyway. You can get it in small format interchangeable core, or as we call Best Prep. You know, we own Best. It's made very well for their keyway to go in there. You can get it without key override also if you want. But that design has been around for a long time, maybe under the name 79, 790, RT. There's a version of that lock we use in the electronic access world with Keyscan that we call the 7900. It's all the same mechanical lock. It's just we change out the circuit board in it to talk to the appropriate systems out there. 79 was designed to work with that ResShield software. The 790 memory serves was designed to talk to our FDU. I hope I don't have that backwards. The FDU was that little front desk unit that didn't require a computer at all. It was when you just walk up and type in the room number, make a key, and you're good to go. Very simple design, still used a lot at military installations and hotels. I don't like it as much because there was no software to it. You know, it limited a lot of the capabilities you could do with it. The new version of that lock is known as the Nova RT. One easy way to tell if the lock is a Nova or if it's one of the older style locks is that card reader, the black area up top. If you look right in the middle of it, there's a square in there. The older 79, 790 RT, those locks, that center area was actually round. There was a circle there. If it's the circle, it's the older style. If it's a square, it's the newer RT Plus. The big difference in that is when programming the lock, it now supports what we call NFC, near field communication. The old style, you had to actually put what we called a claw over the lock, and it programmed through, I believe it was infrared actually, programming it. The new one's NFC, so no more claw to carry to the door. You just hold the programmer up in front of the lock, and it communicates through that near field communication. It also has Bluetooth built into the lock. So instead of the second board you had to add to the older locks, this one has it built into the card reader there. So a little more capability in the lock. That's why we call it a Plus. Just a modern version of that same lock. Still the tried and true solid mechanicals in there, but modern electronics in it. You can get the RT Plus in mortise as shown there. You can get it in cylindrical. Maybe want to use that on a pool gate or laundry room, something like that. You don't need the higher security of the mortise. We also have it in panic trim. Again, going back to the pool gates, that is a very popular use for this lock. Even when using one of our other locks, the Quantum or the Saffire, something like that, a lot of places will use the RT Plus on their exterior gates because it is fully weather rated inside and out of the lock. The front and back of the lock are both weather rated, and we have a weldable gate box that you can actually just cut in, mount to the gate, and then mount the lock right there to it. The newest addition that we came out with this in 2018 was the Nova D. That is a deadbolt version of that lock. Looks very similar. You can see they have the same characteristics to them. Very solid lock, robust, but it is a deadbolt version. No extra prep needed for the door. It fits standard 2 1/8 deadbolt prep. So site's already got, maybe it's an existing site that already has deadbolts there and they want to upgrade, or it's a new site. They don't have to order anything special. No special prep. Doesn't matter if it's a 4-inch spacing, 5-inch, 8-inch, whatever. You've got a passage lever on bottom. You've got the Nova deadbolt on top. One thing I do like to point out, our deadbolts are mechanically driven. So when you read that card, you still turn the thumb turn to unlock or lock the door. That's very important. We don't electronically drive the deadbolts. A lot of people say, well, it's more convenient if you do that. There's a lot of issues with it. One, battery life. Most of those electronic driven deadbolts, you get about 2 or 3 months on the batteries. Some of them you only get a month. Ours, on average, we get 2 years of use on 3 AA batteries. Standard AA, nothing special. In fact, we typically ship them with Rayovac batteries. They work just as well as Energizer or Duracell and cost less. So nothing special there, no rechargeable batteries, no lithium batteries, nothing like that, just standard old AA alkaline batteries. And we still get 2 years out of them on average. The other thing is they build these buildings so fast nowadays that after they settle a little bit, the doors are out of square. Heck, a lot of times they're not even square right off construction. So if you've got an electronic driven deadbolt, that deadbolt's trying to get thrown to either lock or unlock the door, and it's dragging across the frame because the door's out of square, or it won't even catch. I had a brand new house built a few years ago. There's an electronic deadbolt on the front door that's automatic, and I had to adjust it as soon as I moved in because it wouldn't latch. That's one of the problems with it. You think you've locked the door because it's electronically driven. You know, you shut the door, you think it locked behind you, but it never locked because the deadbolt couldn't go in the hole. It's out of square. We want you to mechanically lock and unlock that door when you read your card. That way you know it's locked, you know it's unlocked. It also keeps that motor from wearing out. Those others, building starts settling, starts dragging a little bit, that extra resistance wears on the motor. You're going to be replacing those locks every year, 2 years, 3 years, whatever it is. You're going to be wearing through those locks pretty quick and are replacing them constantly. Nobody wants to buy a lock system and have to keep replacing it. You want to put it in, you just want it to work. That's what we do. It's a good, solid lock set. And as you can see in the picture there, Bluetooth is built in, even on the deadbolt, it's natively there. It's also that near field communication. So it is a modern version of the lock. And if a property needs, right there behind that oval keyway underneath the card reader, that is, our oval cover is a keyway if the site needs. It can either be a mechanical keyway for key override for them, or it can be just the port for power in case the batteries do go dead. You can plug in a battery pack and read a card and still get in the lock. That way you're not locked out if the batteries die. All right, we'll move on to probably what most people want to see anyway, and what is by far my favorite lock. I get asked a lot to quote Insync, to quote Nova, and I will gladly quote those, but I will most likely give you an option for Saffire lock at the same time. It is my favorite lock by far. I was selling these the day they were released. Got a lot of them out there. This lock is our newest edition. It's been out for roughly 2 years, a year and a half, 2 years. The lock itself did come from lodging. The mortise lock was the original. It was released in lodging, and we were kind of smart there. We let them have it for a couple of years, work all the bugs out, find out what the issues were. Then we made our other versions of it, such as the Saffire LXD. You know, kind of easy to understand their terminology. The D is the deadbolt, the I is your interconnected, the L is your latch or cylindrical, the P is your panic trim, and the M is your mortise. But we let them have the mortise lock. We let them work out the kinks. Then we took that same design, that same circuitry, and made our deadbolt version of it. Very cost competitive. Surprisingly, the Saffire locks are actually priced below the Nova locks and priced just above the Insync locks. So our Insync is what we consider our value series. The Saffire is what we consider our modern, very good, almost best series. And then the Nova is what we consider our top robust series. In my mind, the Nova and the Saffire are both mechanically very sound locks. The Nova is just more robust. The Saffire, it's purtier. I'm a Southern boy. It's a purty lock. As I tell a lot of people, it looks like an iPhone sitting on the door. That's one of the nice charms to it, is that a lot of people really like that iPhone design, and we just took an iPhone and stuck it on the door and made it mechanical, basically. So it's nice looking. The LXD there is a deadbolt lock. It works mechanically the same way as that Nova lock works, the Nova deadbolt. You read your card, you turn the thumb turn to lock the door. You read your card, you turn the thumb turn to unlock the door. And it is a clutched thumb turn, just like the handle sets are clutched. That way somebody can't grab it and try to put a pair of pliers on it and break in. Not going to happen. They might break the thumb turn off. They might break a handle off. It's not getting them in doing that, though. We also have this lock. Forgot to say, all our other locks are available in a lot of different finishes. You know, all your standard finishes, satin chrome being primary, satin nickel, your satin and bright brass. We've got bright chrome. I'm not a fan of bright chrome at all. And we've got Aura bronze. What we did with the Saffire, though, is we still have those finishes on the metal part of the lock but we also have different color fascias there. So you see on the Saffire D, we've got a black, we've got a gray, and we've got a white. The white is more of an off-white than a pure white. On that picture, it looks a little more pure. In person, it's a little more off-white, a little closer to bone, maybe. But I kind of like that because it doesn't show dirt as well as a bright, true white wood. I've actually got a lock here I'll show y'all in a minute that is black metal with white faceplate. Looks really good on a door, that combination. I'm still waiting to see, and I hadn't done it on my demo mounts, I'm waiting to see a white door with that black lock and a white trim, kind of that tuxedo look, kind of very modern, clean look. But we have all those different color options there. On this one, you were asking about that single action egress. The Saffire LXI is that. It looks on the outside just like a deadbolt and a passage lever. And that's essentially the way it functions on the outside. However, on the inside, the housing is connected from the deadbolt down to the lever so that when you turn that lever, it does retract the deadbolt. So you do get your true single action egress there. So those AHJs that are saying we don't want them to have to turn a deadbolt and turn a handle, the LXI would be your answer to that. Single action egress. The LXL is the cylindrical version. We see that mostly on lower security common areas, your laundry rooms, maybe your fitness rooms. A lot of times see it on maybe pool gate, or not pool gates, but interior gates. The Saffire lock is weather rated on the exterior of the lock, so you can put it on an exterior door. However, the battery side, the interior side of the lock is not fully sealed, fully weather rated. So I would not put this lock on an exterior gate where both sides of that lock are exposed to weather. Breezeway gates, things like that, be fine. But as far as an exterior gate, like a pool gate, something that's getting water on both sides of the lock, it is not yet rated for that. Talking about possibly having that here in the future, but as of right now, it is not. So I want you to understand that if you're putting Saffire all over your property and you're wanting to secure a couple of pool gates with a simple lock, you've got to use that Nova RT Plus lock for that. Nice thing is they program exactly the same way. They're both NFC locks, so no special claw, no USB cable, nothing like that needed for them. You just hold the handheld up in front of it and send the program. There is a panic trim version there, compatible with most of the popular panic trims out there. I always tell people, you got to tell me what panic trim you're using on the door. That way we know it's compatible. There's a lot of panic trims out there that are not compatible, and it's not always our fault that they're not compatible. A lot of times it's the way the hub works. You know, if it turns clockwise or counterclockwise, if it turns 90 degrees or 45 degrees when it is released. A lot of those things determine what panic trims we can use and what panic trims we can't. So when you ask me if you can use it with certain panic trim and I say you can't, it's not in our compatibility list, please don't get upset with us. It's not always us. A lot of times it's that manufacturer is just making a panic trim that isn't compatible with the way ours turns. It's not the standard that most out there use. We can suggest quite a few panic trims that it will work with. Definitely works with our Dorma 9300. It works with our Precision 21. I know those off the top of my head because we use those quite often. But it is the same look of lock on all of these. The Saffire LXL, LXP, and LXM on the exterior of the door, they all look identical. It's the exact same lock, same housing and all. It's really what's going into the door and the inside portion of the door that may look different. The mortise and cylindrical actually look identical on the inside of the door. It's just what's going through the door and the latching mechanism that looks different. The panic trim, of course, a little bit different because there's nothing of ours on the inside of the door. It's connecting to that panic trim. This lock does have Bluetooth natively built in, so there's no ordering an add-on, an add-on to the part number to get Bluetooth. It is built into the lock. Whether you want it or not, it's there. You don't have to use it. It sits there and basically just sleeps until it's turned on in the software, but it is there ready to use when you want it. Nice thing is you could have a property that says, I don't want Bluetooth. Well, maybe they don't want it now because it's fairly new. They can go ahead and put the locks in. Go ahead and put the software in. It's all good to go. Down the road, they want to turn on Bluetooth, no problem. We turn on the software. They just have to run around all the locks to turn on that feature in the locks at that point, and then it starts working. So Bluetooth natively built into this lock. Very competitively priced among our other locks and among our competitors. We're usually right there even or below cost-wise on them on most of these. So that's why this is my favorite lock, because it competes very well price-wise, it looks good, and it's actually solid. You might look at it and see that fascia and say, well, that's a shiny piece of plastic there that, you can probably take a sledgehammer and break that lock. You might crack the fascia, but right underneath that fascia, it's solid. So that fascia is more decorative, keeps it looking nice, gives it a clean look. Right underneath there, though, it is solid. So you can beat on it, you might scratch it up. You're not going to destroy the lock as easy as you might think, though. So this is our Saffire lock, and I've got some demos that when I'm done with the presentation here, I'll actually hold up the demos and let y'all see them. So any questions on this lock?
I've got one. What's
Sure.
the battery life on a Saffire lock? How many cycles?
I have to look to see what the cycle we have right now. I don't remember if we put a cycle in there, but generally it's about 2 years of use. Most of our locks, we seem to have worked them where 2 years of regular use is what you're getting. And that is even holding true what we're seeing out there. What I'm hearing from customers and all is generally about 2 years. Even with the Bluetooth, we're still getting that, because the way we design our Bluetooth to work is that antenna stays asleep until it sees something presented to it. So even when you're using the Blue Sky app, using our Bluetooth, you still hold the phone up to the lock. So you open the app and hit unlock, and you hold the phone up to the lock. Once it sees that phone presented right there in front of it, then it turns on the antenna and reads that credential from the phone. So that antenna is asleep probably 99% of the time or more. So it's not draining on the battery. We're still getting a couple of years of use out of it.
Thank you. One more, just for my ignorance. So it's like if they were switching from, let's say, the InSync over to the Saffire, could they take like the RDO one off and put the Saffire LXD in the same hole?
Absolutely, because the RDO one, the InSync D lock, was a standard 2 1/8 inch prep, no additional holes. The LXD is the exact same. It's a little taller lock, but still no additional holes through the door. Nice thing is it is a hair taller, which means that door that hadn't been painted in 5 years, and you pull the lock off and you can see a difference in color behind the lock and what the door actually is. This is a hair larger, and we'll cover that up for you. So it's actually good there. But yeah, exact same hole, no additional prep needed at all. And it is a adjustable backset deadbolt. So 2 3/8 or 2 3/4, just like the InSync was. One of the other big differences in this and InSync, the InSync used that black key that you had to insert in the lock. This is true RFID. You just hold up the fob, the card, whatever the credential is, in front of the lock, and then turn the thumb turn. So no inserting, increases longevity and better sealed lock. Any other questions there? All right. Move on to the glue that holds it all together here. The community software. We released community about 2 years ago. We haven't thrown away all our other softwares, but we have discontinued future sales for Res Shield, System 6000. We're still selling and all in sync, but there's talk of in the future rolling in sync into community, which would be great because that puts us all on the same platform for easy upgrades to newer locks in the future. Community was written truly for us for multi-housing. You can see it's got a very modern look to it there. It's all icon based. That's what people are used to now. And it is customizable. So like those top 3 items, resident management, reports, staff vendor management, whatever's up there is actually based on my login. So when I log in, I can change what's up there. When somebody else log in, they see what they put up there. So my most used things I'm gonna have right there on top of the screen. Very easy to work through, very intuitive. And one of my favorite features is if somebody doesn't have access to something in the software, it doesn't just gray it out. It removes it from the screen. So SAMRF, the InSync software, if somebody didn't have access to something, they could still see it, see the option was there and click on it. It just wouldn't let them do anything with it. That led to some people saying, hey, why can't I do that? Or I should be able to do that. On this one, we just remove it. So let's say a leasing agent, all they do is make keys. That's all you want them to do. They would only have that resident management option there. And really, when they log in the software, it wouldn't even show this screen. It would, if they only have one option, it's really going to skip past it and go right into resident management where you add and delete the people, you add and delete credentials. It's all right in there. And adding a Bluetooth credential is just as easy as adding a regular credential. You select the person, you tell it what unit they're in, you go to the Make Credentials screen, and it has a couple options there. One of them, send to mobile. If you have the Bluetooth features turned on, you click on send to mobile, it's going to send it to their phone. Or you click on, I can't remember what it is, make key or create key, something like that, and it's going to start encoding the fob or card or whatever you have there. So making one is just as easy as making the other. This is very, very modern software with a lot more capabilities than we had before. We can create all kinds of different credential types. We have a lot of the same features that we loved from SAMRF in here, such as being able to edit a property on the fly, adding, deleting locks, things like that. Some of the capabilities we didn't have in System 6000. We basically took the best we had in Res Shield, SAMRF, and System 6000 and rolled them into one software. It is also an open-ended software for us, which means we can add features to it very easily. We've already worked out most of those bugs that were out there. The first versions, just like any software, had some bugs in it. We got those worked out, and we now have a clean software. Most of the updates that we get now are just feature adds. We're working integrations with different companies, possibly property management softwares like RealPage, Yardi, and Entrata. Those are not released yet, but a lot of that's in the works. We have recently released an integration with Stratus, properties that want that Internet of Things, the IoT in their property. They want to control their thermostats, their lights, all that from one app. A lot of them will use Stratus for that. We've got an integration with them so that our Bluetooth credential can be housed within their app, and they can control things through our software here to add and delete the people and make those credentials. So we've got that kind of integration. One of the other things we gained with community is something that no one else has out there. Right now, a lot of properties will have smart locks on their units, then they'll have some other kind of access control on the common areas. So they've got 2 separate softwares now, one for all their unit locks and one for the common areas, and they're having to go put the people in both softwares. And most properties are either using a dual credential, which works on our locks and the common areas, 2 separate credentials in one housing basically, or they're carrying 2 credentials. We came up with an answer to that. We own a company called KeyScan, the KeyScan Aurora software. We have integrated that with Community. So they can put KeyScan on all their common area. They can have Community as their software they're using daily. And basically when you encode a regular credential, regular MyFair credential in Community, it pushes that data through Aurora out to the KeyScan panels. One user interface for all your daily needs, one regular MyFair credential for the resident, or that Bluetooth credential. That same Bluetooth credential they can use on their unit can also be used on all those common areas. No one else can do that. We put it all together, one nice interface to run it all.
I have a question on that Stratus integration that you were talking about earlier. So Blue Sky is Dormakaba's app, and then Stratus has their own app. You can use Dormakaba's credentialing in Stratus's app, but can you do it the opposite way? Were you saying that Stratus could integrate into Blue Sky?
No, what we actually do is we're putting Blue Sky kind of in the background of their app. Unlike some of our competitors, we do not release that Bluetooth information out to anyone. We control it. It goes through Blue Sky's our system, runs through ours, and basically what they're doing is they're taking that Blue Sky app and putting it inside of their app so that that credential is really getting sent to Blue Sky just in the background of their app. So if you're doing a property without Stratus, you're using the Blue Sky app. If you're doing a property with Stratus, you're using their app. It's just kind of housing ours in the background. So you're still using our credential just within their app. So it's one nice clean interface for them.
And then you said that there was going to be some future integrations in the works.
There are, as Tom likes to say, we've got a lot of airplanes flying around out there in a holding pattern. We're just trying to land them all in the right order. There are a lot of integrations that we're working on, a lot that people have asked for. It's just, where do we devote all our resources at any given time to get all those in? We're just trying to land them all in and get them all worked out without crippling the software or crippling one of the other integrations. So it's a work in progress. We're working on it, and we'll get those out as time goes.
Awesome. Thank you. Any other questions out there?
Yeah, Justin, next time you guys are out here, or next time you're out here, this is Matt. Just ask me to show you. We have a KeyScan plus Saffire plus Aurora S plus Community all integrated with Stratus in our lab.
Okay.
It's I think all the pieces are connected right now, so I can show you how all those go together.
Cool.
I got a question. If someone's already got KeyScan Aurora, but they're using like the KeyScan format fobs, are they going to have to change their readers to the MyFair fobs to do that integration?
If they want that single integration, yes. Reason being that MyFair credential is a very highly encrypted credential, so it can't be copied. And that specialized reader, what we call our SRK reader, is the only reader in the world that reads that specialized format because it's locked to our system. So yeah, to do the KeyScan integration, there's actually a firmware chip in the panel that's got to be changed out so it can read that format, and then you've got to use those specialized readers. If it's a new property, it's easy to do. If they already have KeyScan, you would be changing out the readers and the firmware chips if you're wanting to truly integrate the two into that single interface, that single credential. I'm going to show just real quick a couple of locks so y'all actually see them in person. That is the Saffire D. That's the one I said I've got the black housing. Hopefully everybody can see this. Black housing with the white fascia on it. You can kind of see that white is not true white. It's a little more of a bone, but nice clean look, especially these sites that are going for these colored doors. This is actually I think the blue that's on my doors at my house. Painted up a demo mount and put it on. So different looks to get whatever you want. The mortise version, y'all saw it in the picture. That's what you see on the outside of the door. Guess what? It looks very similar to what's on the inside. The only difference is it's got an additional thumb turn right here. That's the privacy feature. This lock, yeah, is auto deadbolt. So when the door shuts, it throws that deadbolt. And then turning that would just turn on privacy so that those staff credentials don't work. Still single action egress. Turn the handle, it retracts everything. So that is the Saffire lock there. And the interconnected is the other I like to show. On the outside, it looks just like a deadbolt. So you've got the what essentially looks to be the Saffire D up top with a passage lever. On the inside is where you see the difference. It looks more like the mortise lock. You've got that housing with the thumb turn so that I can throw or retract the deadbolt, and I can, if the deadbolt's thrown, I can turn the handle and it retracts that deadbolt. So you do get your single action egress there.
Hey, Derek, on the interconnect there, is your center to center spacing, is the standard 4-inch, or is it like the 5.5? Can you get the I'm sorry, my question is that if I'm doing a retrofit and I'm doing an interconnect, can I get different center to center spacings, or is there only just the one?
If memory serves, and I'm
there's two of them?
Yeah, I think there's two.
I can probably look it up too. I should have.
I'm looking here right real quick. See, down where I'm at, we don't use interconnect much at all.
Just California, man.
Yeah, like I said, where I'm at. I'm not a California boy. I'm a Southern boy. Yeah, I'm looking at the cut sheet right here, and you've got your two different ones. You've got a 4-inch and you've got a 5.5. We also have for Texas, we actually have the option of the
second
turning the
deadbolt
housing sideways.
Oh, okay.
Because I think it's Texas. We have that for the regular deadbolt, not the interconnected, but regular deadbolt. Have the option to turn the inside of that housing sideways, so horizontal instead of vertical, because some of those doors there, you know, Texas has the law that half deadbolt, half mechanical deadbolt needed above your regular deadbolt, so that staff, it's a staff lockout. Basically, they can't come in at night. Sometimes those doors, those, you know, you've got your passage lever 4 inches up, you've got a deadbolt, and sometimes not even 4 inches up, you've got the half deadbolt. So we do have the option on the deadbolt of turning it sideways for those instances. So we still make room for that half deadbolt right above this.